Namaste everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we'll be talking about why memes don't win Indian elections with some examples. Yesterday was the Cockroach Janata Party's protest at Jantar Mantar in Delhi. There has been a lot of speculation as to what will happen. There has been a lot of fear mongering from the so called party itself that they won't be given permission. The so called leader of the party would be picked up from the airport itself. Almost all of their apprehensions, fear mongering has been turned or rather proved to be untrue because the Delhi police did give permission to them. The Delhi police did enough bandobast, provided enough security cover for everybody that the protest, so-called protest, went peacefully. As far as the success of the protest itself, that is for everybody to see. I don't think I have to elaborate on how well in terms of what people were expecting it went. Mm. So for me, I laughed because that's the only response to this. So let us dive into it. Every election cycle in India, almost everywhere you see, there are some sweeping narratives that we constantly hear saying that in India elections are more so fought online and are won on online platforms. To a certain extent, social media has had presence on Indian elections. Or see, social media in the current um, present time is a fixture in public discourse, right? The thing that we hear constantly during elections is that elections are entirely digital. WhatsApp, Facebook, Twitter, or X decide who wins, who loses, which party wins majority, which party doesn't win any majority or any votes, and that social media trends are the things that dictate voter turnout or voter patterns, particularly young voters. And there is also this misconception or this idea that young population of this country are against the establishment. I'm not saying a particular party, they are against this establishment. See, but the reality of the fact is social media trends rarely do translate into real world actions or decisions. Once you move away from all this nonsense, you'll kind of understand what really happens during an election in India. If you have some time, go through the Election Commission website, you go through ADR website, you go to Lokniti website. These are certain websites that you can visit to understand what transpires during an election. One gives you the data, the other says what has transpired, how much money is being spent, where certain concerns are there, what should be corrected, what happened. See, to get an overall picture, you have to go and look at hard data. See, for example, the illusion that Indian elections are decided by memes is false. To an extent, mainstream media has little impact on what transpires, but to a larger extent, even they cannot sway the voters' mindset, right? If you are watching Indian politics playing out in social media, or if you are watching these loud debates on television, you might get a feeling that elections are completely won and lost on social media and mainstream media because of the narratives that are being fed during every election cycle, whether it is a national election or a state election. But in reality, there is a stark difference, right? Everybody knows how elections, most of us understand how elections are fought. See, narratives are fought on the digital realm. I don't think elections are fought on the digital realm. The idea that whoever controls WhatsApp and Facebook, they can control the nation. No, they can control the narrative. Once they control the narrative, they'll have some say in the outcome of the election, but not entirely too. It boils down to individual electors or voters choice. As I said, there are two aspects that I would like to talk about. One is the idea that social media dictates how elections go, and the youth of this country are discontent with the government. We'll discuss this latter part in the tail end of the video, but I'll try to focus more on how elections are fought, or rather give you a basic understanding of how elections are fought. See, these ideas or wishes of certain people will make for cool headlines and cool debates online, but in reality, this is the most disconnected thing from the reality itself, right? So if you look past this rubbish that kind of dominates our timelines, and when you rely on data that is available in front of you, you'll understand and try to get an idea of how Indian elections are actually fought, and most importantly, what does it really take to win one election, right? The idea that Indian elections have primarily become digital, that idea comes from the social media spending of each individual electoral party during the last election cycle and the previous election cycle, where political parties ended up spending fortunes of money on social media campaigns, buying out influencers, and trying to do targeted messaging through platforms like Google, Facebook, whatever it is, right? But it is rarely that outcomes of elections are decided by that digital outreach or a digital dominance. For example, I think in the last election, the Bharatiya Janata Party outspent other parties in terms of digital spending for their social media campaign. But if you look at the final tally of the 2024 election, I think BJP lost more seats, right? In 2019, they were around 300 plus. In 2024, they dropped down to 240. So if you look at that statement, so if from that statement you clearly see that BJP outspent other political parties. So by that metric, they should have won more seats, but in reality, they lost more seats. So there is a disconnect there, right? See, as I said earlier, digital media is a tool that is used to set narratives. But do those narratives successfully transfer into votes? There is no credible study to say that it does. There is not enough data to actually say that yes, narratives that are being set online have impact on how people vote. They decide how people vote. And the conclusion that social media is going to replace the electoral organizations that exist in the country, no, I don't think physical digital media or digital advertisement or a narrative that is being set on social media uh, can physically guide an individual to vote a certain way. It is a very innate and personal thing when it comes to voting, at least for most of us. See, fundamentally in India, elections revolve around how a party is able to capture individuals at the booth level, right? For example, parties have booth agents, regional agents, district agents, state agents, whatever you call them. At every level of the society, they have a representative to represent their party and ensure that voters turn out to vote for their party. Even election commission has booth level officers during elections. For example, during the recent electoral roll revision exercises, some 60,000 booth level officers were deployed by the election commission in the state of Karnataka alone. So this is a very structured thing. There are a lot of layers of people that function in political organizations, and to say that this entire ecosystem that exists for a political party will be simply replaced by some social media accounts is plain stupid. See, political parties understand this very simple thing. Clicks on social media, likes on social media, shares on reshares or retweets on social media do not translate into votes. That is why they invest a certain amount. To us it looks ungodly, but for them it's a small change on social media. But at the same time, they'll invest far more resources, far more uh, energy into their party's grassroots structures, right? They fundamentally understand that online presence does not translate into votes. The golden rule of Indian politics is simple: how well are you managing your voter turnout? Voter turnout management decides who wins or loses. For example, I picked this up from Times of India. During the last election in Uttar Pradesh, BJP, just to manage two parliamentary seats, they did digital campaigning there. But I'm talking about these two particular seats. They extensively canvassed in those regions, and they appointed 4,712 Panapramukhs across the polling stations in the city, polling booths in the cities. What is Panapramukh? I think that refers to a page in the electoral roll. Each page has some 10 to 12 families, and each party has and the BJP has assigned one page to one cadre of that party, and his job was to uh, go to that family, request them that they come and vote for the party, so that everybody in that electoral roll would end up voting. See, at the end of the day, they cannot control who the person will vote for, but at least they can ensure that the person or the family comes to vote. That is how they manage it. So they understand that, because these people, their job is to not only ensure that they vote on the polling date, but they also interact with that family on a regular basis, and they'll understand their grievances. And on the election day, they'll ensure that the party representative will ensure that the family goes out and vote or cast their vote. This is how minutely the parties manage. This is not only limited to BJP. Every major political party, every major regional party does this. If some political party is in power, it means that they were able to manage that election. They were able to send their message out. They were able to take their message to the grassroots levels using their cadre to that extent. At the end of the day, elections are very labor intensive. It's a grueling process, but at the end of the day, the voter preference on the voting day reigns supreme. Every party, Congress does this, BJP does this, AAP does this, any major parties, national or regional, you take it, they'll do it. They'll try to micromanage their constituencies into small clusters at booth level or district level or state level or village level. Then they'll adopt structures that would ensure that the party messages reaches those people. Then they'll assign workers and ensure that they'll do this kind of management at booth level. See, if elections are determined by Twitter and algorithms, then why would all these political parties invest so much into getting cadre at the grassroots level? It would simply mean that whoever pays the highest money to Twitter will win the election, but that is not the case, right? So, memes actually do not win elections, right? Second thing, coming to the discontent of youth with the current establishment. Yes, there are certain genuine issues that the youth of this country face. In my humble opinion, it is unemployment, underemployment are the primary issues before the youth of this nation. The idea that Indian youth have become an unified voting bloc, I don't think that is true. If you go by university dictums, university protests, you are an idiot. See, youth of this country are facing very, very real issues: lack of formal employment opportunities, the irregularities in competitive exam systems, whatever the source may be, it is a discontent. People are suffering. For example, the NEET. Sadly, people do live in digital bubbles. And as a result of it, the genuine concerns of the youth get distorted. Case in point, what happened at Jantar Mantar. See, for example, the party that the protest that took place, they actually had enjoyed a great percentage of vote youth. Yes, it had gone down in the recent times, but it didn't entirely it was not entirely abandoned by them compared to the last two elections. I think BJP enjoyed a little bit of more youth vote. See, I don't think there is a consolidated voting youth or youth voting bloc as such. I don't think the youth of India has united and taken an anti-BJP stand. There is no enough. There is no enough. There is not enough. I don't think there is enough evidence to support it. This is something that you have to get into your minds. See, a decline in support for one party does not mean that they have unified, and it is a widespread opposition movement. No, dissatisfactions absolutely exist. As I said, they are tied with lack of formal employment, underemployment, and the recent spate of irregularities that are coming out in terms of competitive exams. They do have a huge impact on the minds of the youth. But in India, does this dissatisfaction translates into electoral realignment as such? I don't think so. I don't think there is enough evidence to support. As Indian voter, adult Indian voter is not a monolith. Likewise, Indian youth is also not a monolith. You have to understand that. They are extremely diverse. Their behavior when it comes to voting is very complex. They have their own complex identities. They are unique in their way. They are very clear about what they want. And they have this beautiful habit of asking fucking questions. They don't take anything at face value. They want to know how you have arrived to that conclusion. What are your stakes? What is your interest? So they have common sense. So they are not stupid. They understand what the hell is happening. See, if young person's vote is, sadly to say, but it is dictated by their caste also, the religion, the class that they live in, they come from. What are the benefits that they are getting from the government? You cannot see. I think Tao had put this so beautifully in the recent. If you have time, go and listen to this. He says a person living in Delhi is living in 2026. A person living 100 kilometers from Delhi is living in 2020. A person living again a 50 or 60 kilo or 100 kilometers from the village at the last big town is living in 2015, 2016. And the person who is in tribal areas is living in some 1990s or 2000s. So the geography also plays a huge part. The societal life also plays a huge part. You cannot look at the university protest or what discussion takes place in university and say that the youth have consolidated and they'll vote against a party. So yes, They are vocal, they are angry, they are present on online. But most of it that we are seeing is from urban areas. Most of the silent majority when it comes to young voters are in rural and semi-urban India. And whether you like it or not, they still vote on their traditional social conditions. Simply saying that youth are anti-establishment, you'll be an idiot, because it is not that. So be careful when you say that the nation of this youth want revolution. And if somebody gives you an example of Bangladesh or Nepal, remember they both are the size of a state in this country. The institutional mechanisms that exist in country when it comes to internal security, I think earlier people would have taken it lightly, but no, sir. The state missionary is serious when it comes to security. The state missionary is very serious when it comes to stability. You cannot compare what transpires in Bangladesh, what transpires in Nepal, and ensure a hope that that will happen here. No, people are Indian youth are far more intelligent than what you give credit to. Coming back to the electoral part, social media dictating or deciding elections. See, at the end of the day, it's simple. It's scale and money. Scale of the grassroots level that you are going in, the money you are spending will decide who will win the election. I think people are very. It's like the elephant in the room. Everybody knows it, but nobody says it out loud. The sheer scale of Indian election and the amount that is being spent every election cycle is ungodly, right? Nobody talks about it. They say this is organic. They say youth. No, कुछ नहीं होता है. See, as I said, you cannot compare what has transpired in Nepal or Sri Lanka into India. Sri Lanka is like a union territory. It will take 3 hours for Delhi police to curb anything that comes out if the state backs them. So be realistic when you throw these things. You'll end up looking like an idiot. So to manage elections, to win elections, that is the size of India, you need money. In India, politics are brutally expensive. It is not for the faint hearted. I think in ADR, according to data from ADR, their analysis of 2024 Lok Sabha election cycle, again, this is just an estimation. Nobody knows how much actually they end up spending. They say that one political party spent some 3,000 crores, the other political party spent 1,500 crores, and some other political party has spent 600 crores. Look at the numbers that we are talking. These are estimates. They are not saying, they are estimating that we anticipate this much has been spent. The truth is somewhere in between, like always. So, look, can you spend that money? A lot of money goes into the physical mechanics of the election. It pays for transportation networks, it pays for rallies, pays for public meetings, it pays for booth workers. So all these things have to be taken care of, and money is required to ensure that everything runs smoothly. So you tell me, what is the truth here? So let's take the example of the Cockroach Janata Party. Uh, there are questions itself about it whether it is organic or not. Everybody seems to have affiliations with a political party that are outright lying in some cases that they don't have affiliations with a set party, but their past actions, their past social media, and whatever you call it, clearly shows a pattern of their, not only a pattern, it clearly establishes that they have links, direct links with certain political party. And you hope these guys consolidate youth vote. Are yaar, I have seen some big so-called experts, freedom of speech experts, so-called voices of dissent, that constantly kept tweeting for people to turn up on Jantar Mantar. And one day before the protest, they were saying, my heart is in Delhi, my heart is in Jantar Mantar, but sadly, I have a vacation planned with my parents. So I'm going to Switzerland, I'm going to Auckland, I'm going to so and so place, I'm going to so and so place. I'm so sorry I cannot come, but my heart is in Delhi and my heart is with you. Please bring your parents, please bring your sisters, please bring your, in some cases, your servant, so that they can blow fan on your neck while you are sipping some Kool-Aid. And they backed out. They were nowhere to be seen. And you expect some kid who has to go through that NEET exam on 21st come and protest with you when you are not even at the venue that you instigated. So, see, these are all armchair experts. If you are a new youth, I suggest you work hard, you try to get your family, yourself out of the situation that you are in, and live a very happy, fantastic life that you want to live. See, you cannot fight certain things, you have to accept it. You can fight certain things when your heart is in right place, but your heart itself is comes from a very polluted place, very diluted place. When you have uh, some other intentions than what you are saying out loud, I don't think you will succeed in your mission. See, as I said, social media can create narratives. Will it transfer into votes? No. Social media campaigns matter. Social media has become an important political battlefield where narratives are being set and news is being controlled. There is zero credible evidence to show that elections have become digital. No. The second aspect, youth support for um any political party, it will fluctuate. One day they'll like this, the other day they'll not like this, they'll like something else. There is no evidence that says that the youth of nation are against this political party, that political party. They are smart, they understand what the hell is happening, who is playing whose games. They are very realistic in their approach. They understand what is happening. The ultimate lesson that you can take from this is narratives are created online, elections are won and fought on the field. It is booth management, it is voter turnout, and how well your social coalitions are working in that region. And not to forget the huge amounts of money that needs to be spent every election cycle. So, for a political party to win, they combine this money, they combine this physical organization size, the missionary as we call it, and they'll pursue that election so that they win in that election. Every political party does this, every political party at every level of the country does this. So that is, you have to accept it. So there's that. Be smart, take care, bye.